All right, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of Joshua Basin Water District for Wednesday, November 7th, 2018. Please rise and join Karen in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Determination of quorum.
Madam President, all 5 directors are here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I would move that we approve the agenda.
Is there a move in the second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Public comment. This is the time set aside for public comment on any district-related matter not appearing on the agenda. Government code prohibits the board from taking action on these items, but they may be referred for future consideration. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent calendar. Matters on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted in a single motion without discussion. Any board member or member of the public may request that an item be removed from the consent calendar and acted on separately. The 2 items are the draft minutes of the October 17th, 2018 special meeting of the Board of Directors and the draft minutes of the October 17th regular meeting of the Board of Directors. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, so the consent calendar is approved. We will move to item number 7, results of strategic planning workshops held on October 16th, 17th, 2018. Mr. Sauer.
Okay, so the Strategic Planning Committee met for the first of 2 Strategic Planning Committee meetings on October 16th and 17th. During the session, the committee developed draft vision, mission, tagline, and goals for the district. Board's representative is Tom Floan. CAC's representative was Gail Austin. And members from staff included Mark Mann, Scott Carpenter, Jim Corbin, Peggy Agnew, Gail Emery, Susan Greer, Sarah Johnson, Bill Klein, Randy Little, Randy Mays, Kathleen Radnich. Randy was absent, actually. Ann Roman, Kurt Sauer, and Beverly. So we're bringing these draft statements of vision, mission, tagline, and goals to you tonight for your comments tonight, and also your comments up until next Tuesday, because Wednesday and Thursday of next week is the next strategic planning session. And they're fairly short and straightforward. The draft vision statement, as the group defined it, is what we want the district to achieve sometime in the future. Okay? And currently the district does not have a mission statement. It does not have a vision. It has a mission statement. So the vision is to achieve excellence in all of our endeavors. The mission statement, which is basically defined as, why do we exist? Why does the water district exist? What is our core purpose? And what is it that we give up the last? And the draft mission is to provide, protect, and maintain Joshua Tree's water, our vital community resource. The tagline can be used for marketing, its branding, its image. And the draft tagline, in lieu of "It's the water," is suggested to be proudly providing water from an ancient source well into the future. Pun intended. So those are the visions, missions, taglines, and the 5 goals that we've come up with. And the next session next week, we're going to take the goals, and from the goals, underneath each goal, will be a series of objectives. And then underneath those objectives will be the strategies to employ to accomplish the objective, both for the next 3 to 5 years, and the goals will be ranging out 10 to 15 years. So it's a dynamic but long-term strategic plan, which should be revisited every year or two. Okay? And it should be revisited every time we do a budget. So the goals are improve the operational efficiency and reliability of the district's water resources and infrastructure. Number 2 is to ensure the district meets regulatory requirements for water, wastewater, financial, and administrative functions. Number 3 is value employees by providing a safe and respectful work environment with opportunity for growth and collaboration. Number 4 is optimize the administrative, financial, and technology management. Number 5 is educate and engage with our customers, community, and partners. So those are the draft goals. And the draft vision, mission, and tagline. We also are developing a value statement, which we're not ready to present to the board yet, but we certainly will be after next week's session. And it's going to be a statement with values. So therefore, it's a value statement. Transparency and things like that. So that's where we are so far. Maybe Tom wants to add something, or maybe the CAC rep wants to add something. Or maybe Susan or Sarah or Beverly or Kathleen want to add something, because they were all there.
Look, you got. I really want to thank Tom Flowen for being the board's representative on that, because he went through every single one of the meetings and represented us ably. So thank you so much, Tom.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good work is right. What do you want from us?
If you have any comments tonight, or certainly if you could provide Sarah and I with any comments that you, or Tom, going forward into next week's second session, the group would like to hear from you. Obviously, the board needs to buy into the strategic plan and all its goals, its strategies, its coordination with budget, etc.
I just want to point out, with our mission statement, it became apparent, no one in the room, we live it, but we couldn't state it. So the idea was to shorten it and take out all the extra words, but still have the same message. So if you notice how short the mission statement has become, it's so that we can say it if someone were to ask us. And I think that was very prudent on the staff and everyone involved that was there. They all agreed, you know, we should be able to just say it, but it was just too long. So I just want to point that out. That's how it got so short.
Yeah, I've heard once that a mission statement should be understood by a 12-year-old, and you should be able to recite it at gunpoint. So it needs to be really, really good.
Let's hope not.
Anyway, I'm going to miss It's the Water. I understand why it's gone, but I love that because, you know, this is a wacky community, and It's the Water I thought was very funny. But it didn't actually send the message, so. Any comments from the board? Anything from you, Tom?
Just to say that what we're starting out with the vision, it's a very broad, general thing. And then as you go down the list of these things to the mission, from the vision to the mission to goals, all that, it gets to be specific. So that when an employee is going to go out into the field in some way, he can actually apply this stuff and have a broader sense of purpose as to why he's doing it. And I think that would be a way hopefully to instill in everyone that they're doing something for a broader purpose, a more noble purpose, rather than going to sweep the street or trowel some concrete in front of the VFW over here or something. They can lift their nose from the grindstone and see something out there that they're really working for. In other words, we're looking for an inspiration here, an inspirational kind of a document. It was very interactive. If you sat there quietly in the room, you were called out. And somebody would ask you, what do you think, and talk a little bit. And I was particularly impressed with Gail, because, you could argue that as a person on the advisory committee, they're somewhat remote in the organization, meeting occasionally and discussing the big issues, but still they're kind of out there a little bit. But she was right in the middle of things, and she was saying significant stuff too. Very impressive, I thought. And I wanted to say that while the president of the CAC was here, because she is a member of your committee, and she contributed as much as anybody, and possibly in terms of the value of what she said, she did better than a lot in the room. And also, too, just one more thing, I admired the part about how everybody from all parts of the organization, roughly 17 people there, all parts of the organization were there interacting with each other on this stuff. Mm-hmm. And a lot of some of the, shall we say, more candid people in the organization were very impressive and very helpful and very eloquent in some of the stuff that they said and what they wrote, too. I guess I've talked long enough.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Well said.
Yes, well said. Dr. Hunt.
I'd just like to thank staff and Tom and the members of the CAC for their involvement in this to date. And I've been through a couple of these strategic planning processes, and I think it's a very valuable thing to do and to revisit from time to time. And it does provide that overarching sense of who we are and what we're doing and why we're doing it that goes beyond our day-to-day tasks. So thank you all. Look forward to the rest of your product.
Oh, I just wanted to mention, there were 17 people there, a very diverse group from, management to line staff and, CAC members. And one thing that had to be agreed upon is this was consensus. So everybody not only wasn't just live with the final product, but had to accept and support it. So that was our definition of consensus, and that's where we got after 2 very, very long days.
Excellent.
Exhausting.
A lot of very good feedback from the staff, too. They appreciated being part of it, because they're the ones that have to live it and promote it.
Thank you. Director Johnson.
No, I appreciate it. I'm excited to see the final outcome with this, and I am more than excited to see the goals. This is tracking. It's good stuff. Thank you.
Dr. Under.
Yeah, you might think, oh, gee whiz, after 2 really long days, you've got a few little lines. These lines are really good, and they are inspirational, and they are, there's some specificity that, that is kind of, like you say, kind of directing a person, no matter what they're doing. I particularly like the tagline, probably providing water from an ancient source well into the future. I just think that's really good. I really like that. And also I thought the draft goals were really good. I had a few minor little things, like extra commas, little grammatical kind of things. And on the draft mission, to provide, protect, and maintain, it says Joshua Trees Water, our vital community resource. I kind of switched that. I put to provide, protect, and maintain our vital community resource. Joshua Trees Water is how I saw that kind of coming up. No, I thought this was really good. I really appreciate it. And yeah, to come out with something that's succinct and makes sense and is inspiring, and hopefully no one's going to have a gun to their head. I think that these are the kind of things that it was worth those 2 hard days with 17 people working at this. So thank you very much, and I'll just I'll slip it in somebody's cubby, whatever the little punctuation stuff I have.
Yeah, give it to Sarah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any public comment? Seeing none?
And just one more comment from the general manager. The camaraderie and the spirit of the staff in that room was pretty dynamic. A lot of proud people. And coming from, as I think Sarah said, different perspectives and responsibilities, it was fun. We broke into some of the groups and I was looking around the room and it's like, wow, those two people are totally immersed in conversation and they're not sitting back, yeah, we got another 6 minutes. They were engaged. To have the staff that engaged in a long-term visionary project it was fun.
Excellent, excellent.
It's creative, you people get a chance to be creative and get into something in yourself that isn't just, twisting nuts and bolts or, adding up columns and figures and stuff like that. It's, I really appreciate it. Good work, you guys.
Very good. Anything else on that before we move on? Seeing none? Item number 8, adopt resolution number 18-993, increasing the guarantee deposit for the water accounts and establishing automatic future increases to the guarantee deposit based on water rates. Is that Susan or?
Yes, it is.
The recommendation tonight is that you adopt the resolution before you. The guarantee deposit, as we all know, is used to secure water accounts against customers who fail to pay. The current $100 deposit has been in place since 1997, more than 21 years. Although in that same time frame, we know that water rates have increased significantly. There needs to remain parity between those two items, or else bad debt increases, and that's exactly what we're seeing now. So I've talked with some of you many, many times about the guarantee deposit before. So it takes 2 months before an account can be locked off for non-payment. And by the time we send out the final closing bill, if that person never comes back to restore service, and that happens every single month, there's 3 months of unpaid water bills that need to be covered with that guarantee deposit. Based on the new rates that go into effect just 2 months from now, 3 months of unpaid water bills for the average residential customer equals $225. Our current regulations already spell out that a double deposit is required if you are locked off for non-payment. The current deposit's $100, so when you're locked off for non-payment, that's a $200 deposit's required. Current regulations also say that if you've damaged the meter or you've unlocked your meter without authorization, that you owe a deposit of 2.5 times the standard deposit. A review of information of accounts that get locked off and damage that occurs indicates that a slightly smaller deposit based on these new amounts would work for the most part. There are always going to be accounts that have bills that exceed any reasonable amount of deposit, and we cannot protect ourselves from that. That is a factor of cost of doing business. So staff is proposing, because it's been so long since the deposit has increased, and this double deposit and this 2.5 time deposit would be really extreme at this point in time, and that an analysis indicates that a slightly smaller deposit would still cover most of the costs, that we reduce that amount slightly, and that a deposit once you're locked off for non-payment would be 1.5 times the amount, and that a deposit if you're locked off for damage would be a double deposit at that point in time. So one of the issues in changing the deposit so dramatically from 100 to 225 is that we're going to disconnect people who have either no deposit, their deposit has been applied already to their account during a time when they had better payment history with us, or maybe they established their account with better credit history at the time, and so they didn't even require a deposit. So now we're saying you have no deposit, and we're going to require a $340 deposit from you. That's 1.5 times that new $225 deposit. And that's pretty extreme. I thought that maybe a better option would be that you must deposit with us at least that $225 when you are locked off for non-payment. That amount's only $25 more than what the current double deposit is when you're locked off for non-payment. Then we would give you 2 subsequent months to pay the balance to get to that $340. We would bill it on your account, it would come on your bill, you pay it along with your payment. And if you didn't make the payment, you'd again be subject to lock off for non-payment. But I think that's a way to get us back in sync again with what is undoubtedly a really significant increase in the amount of the deposit. This is the problem with waiting a really long time to change the deposits, because they have to match with the water rates or there's no point. Since it has been so long since we increased the deposit and we're running into these challenges associated with increasing the deposit, I propose that we take a different approach to guarantee deposits in the future. Our guarantee deposit should be based on some sort of average water consumption. That's determined for us every time we do a rate study. We're doing that about every 5 years now. We know it takes 3 months for a water account. If they never come back, it's 3 months of unpaid bills that are due. And I propose that we increase the deposit each time, or change the deposit, I guess I should say. Rates have been decreased here in the past, so we change the deposit each time that the rates change. So as the rates increase, we're going to do that same analysis. We're going to say, what's the consumption? What's that average consumption? It's 9 units per the current rate study. Went down a little bit from the prior one. Times 3 months. Calculate that out, and then we know what the new guarantee deposit should be. The deposit will maintain parity as the rates increase over time, based on this average water consumption, which is more than fair to most customers. In addition to the changes that I've already spoken about, I have changed the language to termination of water service. I'm using that terminology now in our rules and regulations. It's referred to in the code. Trying to match up language in the code with language in our rules and regulation makes it a lot easier. I'm also limiting the amount of information that I'm putting into Article 13. We used to do a lot of redundancy in Article 13, put it in wherever it belongs in the rest of the regs, and then drag it again into Article 13. And Article 13 has gotten really cumbersome. And I'm rewriting, I'm finalizing the fee study, I'm rewriting Article 13, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't really belong in Article 13. It belongs in the other portions of the rules and regs. Article 13, I want really just to be substantially the numbers, okay? I've seen through the process as well that some things got eliminated in Article 13 inadvertently because of all of this extra language that's in there. So I think that'll help staff, we be able to manage it better as well. One last point is that recently adopted SB 998 is going to put all of this on the cutting board, so to speak, and we will be back to revisit this issue as it relates to SB 998 and all the new regulations related to that. So that's effective January 1, 2020. So we have a little over a year to get that together, but we'll again be, addressing at least a portion of the guarantee deposit issue. So Gil has reviewed the resolution. He also concurs that there's no challenge or legal issue with tying the guarantee deposit to the rates in the way that I've proposed it here. I think it will make this business decision easier for us to manage in the future, going forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Any questions?
I have a couple.
Yes.
Susan, you touched on, if rates were for some reason to decrease, say that revenue was good,
Right.
we were on track on our capital improvement
Right.
plan, we
Right.
started to generate our own energy and realize savings there, and we felt that 1 year we could reduce rates and
Right.
still not be, losing the revenue we
Right.
need to bring in to do our work. The way this is written, it's kind of written, it is written assuming that the rates will increase. So my question is, do we need to address that circumstance, like to maybe not go below 225 in the event of a decrease? Would we say establish an automatic future changes to the guaranteed deposit based on water rates?
Well, it says here, each time that water rates are changed in accordance with board action, so it's only when you take an action, typically by resolution, the guaranteed deposit will also be recalculated and changed. So it allows for up and it allows for down. I've been through both here, so
Okay.
I purposely did it this way so that it could allow
No,
for
that's a
either
good
of
point.
those.
That
Okay.
language accommodates
Right.
that, so I'm satisfied with that.
Okay.
And then I'm just curious on the basing the deposit on the credit rating. Have we audited that in the past to see if indeed if somebody has a good credit rating that they rarely default?
That's a really good question, Director Hund. We are beginning to see a turn, and to answer the basic question, yes, we analyze that data every single year as we do the bad debt write-off. So we compare the amount of bad debt to the green and yellow and red credit ratings that you're talking about. We are beginning to see an increase in the amount of green bad debt. However, it is almost all related to locked meters. And we have no guarantee deposits for locked meters because we're automatically issuing bills to those property owners, okay? So, there's no way for us to we can't even get paid for the bills. We're not going to be able to get a guarantee deposit from them.
Right.
So, they haven't asked to establish an active water account at that point in time. When they want water delivery, then they've got to meet those requirements.
Right.
And the credit rating, for the most part, has been
Correlates.
reflective of the write-off that we see. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I guess lastly, I noticed that you said that if we had the fee at 225 now, that would have saved $5,600 in
Right.
bad debt.
Right, at least.
At least.
So,
Okay, thank you.
right, you're welcome.
Okay, anybody else from the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, are we ready to take action?
Sure, I'll move that we adopt resolution number 18-993, increasing the guarantee deposit for the water accounts and establishing automatic future increases to the guarantee deposit based on water rates.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll do a roll call on this since it's got money. Start with Director Arundel.
Aye.
Aye.
Director Hunt.
Aye.
Director Plum.
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
So excited.
Well, and I especially like the fact that it will move with rates, because we don't want to have some future board suddenly having to look at this huge thing and deal with it.
Thank you for your work on this.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sure, you're welcome.
We will move to item number 9, update on shop remodel and amendment to the 2018-19 budget to reflect all expenses and incomes for the CIRP.
Okay, so the recommendation is that you authorize the general manager to adjust the 2018-19 budget to clearly identify costs and offsets for the capital improvement replacement program for 2018-19. I'm going to go shoot through the shop remodel, but I also want you to kind of think back. Several months ago, we were talking about looking at the general manager's authority to manage monies within the budget. The board approves the budget. If we don't exceed the budget, I think we should be able to move the monies around, but we haven't discussed that since that time, and I think this is a really good example of how we could, rather than having to come back to the board, as long as we're staying inside the approved budget, make the changes to the budget so that we are accurately tracking what's going on. And Mark really wanted to be here tonight to do this presentation, but he's currently over at the shop finishing up the last of the electrical so that the drywall can be put in on the second floor tomorrow. And the shop's been, offices have been built, it's been wired, cabled, the insulation is in this past weekend, drywall's being hung and be taped and painted hopefully next week. So in the 18-19 annual budget, we approved that in June, prior to the August 2018 approval of the $3 million loan for the Capital Improvement Replacement Program. The loan was approved 2 months after the capital budget, and within the loan description, the shop remodel was specifically identified as part of the loan expenses. But the current shop remodel, or the shop remodel was originally scheduled to be $65,000 this year when we were doing the budget, and then each year successively, as the revenues came in, we would, complete the shop remodel. With the loan, we decided to just complete the shop remodel and get it done. We've got 5 or 6 additional positions. We're moving 1 or 2 positions out of here over there to improve efficiencies with the field. So the current shop remodel was informally presented to a contractor who did the office remodel work. His estimate was between $200,000 and $250,000 without change orders. I advised the board on August 15th that we were going to complete the project ourselves. In the capital budget, the board originally approved $1.7 million for equipment, including $65,000 for the shop remodel, $115,000 for engineering and design, and $868,000 for personnel, equipment, and materials. So that's a total of $2,741,000, leaving a balance on the loan of $259,000. We've spent $54,000 to date on the shop remodel. We've identified an additional $92,000 to complete the project. Utilizing the remaining balance in the existing budget, we need to enter a line item in the capital budget of $81,000 to reflect the total cost of the shop remodel, or $146,000. This compares to the $141,000 that we spent over the past 2 years for the office remodel and the HVAC upgrade of this 30-year-old building. And we're working with a similar 33-year-old building. We also have received an additional DWR grant of $130,000 that will be used to offset the engineering CIRP costs in the next 2 years. Therefore, the budget should reflect that as well. But I can't change the budget, and Susan and I can't change the budget unless we come to the board and point out to you that we need to change the budget to reflect a total cost rather than $65,000 for the shop remodel for what was a 3-year project to $146,000, which will be a 1-year project. And also in the budget, in the capital budget, we don't have anything that shows an income from the DWR grant of $130,000. So it's basically an administrative shopkeeping, if I can use that phrase. And to me, it's an example of how the board should somehow quantify for the general manager and staff how they must manage the budget and not exceed, but they can move monies around to take care of projects and to take care of the commitments that we've made to the board and to the public. So before you have any questions for me, I also want to point out to you some of the benefits of the shop remodel project after some 30 years of sort of well-intentioned work gluing things together. Several electrical safety hazards have been identified and corrected. At least 2 different electrical lines that are live that ended in nothing except bare wire have been removed. The overloaded electrical panel box has been upgraded and is to code. The lighting has been upgraded to LEDs, decreasing electrical costs and following along with our economic feasibility study for the solar program. The antiquated shop coolers and heating system have been upgraded to properly cool and heat the office space, which is now separate from the 7,000 square foot building, roughly 5,500 square foot building. That's the rest of the shop. The shop offices have been separated from the shop workspace, meeting a project goal of the 2012 strategic plan. The insulation's been upgraded, decreasing electrical costs and decreasing shop noise in the work area. The pathetic bathroom facilities for 10 employees have been upgraded to properly provide for up to 17 employees. That includes the 5 CIRP crew members, the ops tech, and we're moving a couple of positions, the GIS position and the regulatory compliance position, which now work for the Assistant General Manager for Operations, over to the shop so that they interface with the field more readily. The structural issue of the second floor storage area has been fixed. It was a safety hazard, and at one point, some year and a half after I got here, I was actually physically stopped by one of my employees from going up the stairs to that second floor because they knew the dangers that were up there, and for some reason they didn't want the general manager to get hurt. So I think that's a pretty clear statement on how bad it was, and we had all kinds of materials stored up there. If there had been an earthquake, we'd have been in big world of hurt. The offices are now properly cabled for technology, such as computers and SCADA, and they've been cabled and conduited, is that a term? For future expansion of wiring that might be needed. The internet servers and SCADA equipment is in a secure and clean area, and the SCADA screen and monitoring function has been moved out of a small office so that the entire staff will be able to be learning about SCADA and monitoring rather than just 3 people that are considering retiring in the next 3 to 5 years. Proper storage of thousands of dollars of water testing equipment has been created. And the employee morale and team cohesiveness has been enhanced. Many of you have been over to the shop, and you see, just like I saw at the strategic plan, the cohesiveness of this crew coming together. So those are some of the benefits of the shop remodel. So that's the end of the report, and I hope you authorize the general manager to adjust the 2018 budget. End of report.
Thank you. Excellent. We'll start with Director Unger.
What did, Kurt, you kind of says about how you're kind of using this as an example of how we can authorize you to have that freedom to kind of move, it's moving money around in the same space. What did you mean? What do you want us to do, I guess?
Well, for tonight, I just want you to let us bring the budget up to speed so that it's accurate. But I want to use it as an example. I've been reading the administrative code. It's very riveting, almost as riveting as the finance committee. You know, and the general manager can go ahead and procure and spend $10,000 and not tell the board. The general manager can spend $20,000 and inform the board. But anything over $20,000, the general manager can't move until the board approves that. And when you have a $3 million budget, $6 million budget, maybe I'm dreaming, $6 million budget, there's enough room within that budget to be able to move monies around. A good example is the original budget had 9 months of salaries programmed for the capital improvement crew. Well, we're going to get them on, hopefully we'll get to this later in the meeting, hopefully in January, So there's 3 months of salary. But that 3 months of salary in this year is coming out of the loan, so the loan money should not be getting sucked over into, you know, new or used operationals, you know, more valves that aren't part of the CIRP. But there's the management of the entire budget that I don't have a clearly defined and finite recommendation on that yet, but I think it's something that the board and staff need to discuss in the coming months ahead.
To allow more freedom, more flexibility.
Yeah.
It's not holding things up.
Increased efficiency and lack of delay to
Right.
get projects done.
And
And Susan has a comment.
A budget policy. That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
And that's already on my list. I have a few other things, as we talked about earlier, that I'm, trying to work through, but that is on my list, and you'll be getting a budget policy, in the future.
So, but you're
it will
showing
address
this
all these
as-
kinds of things, but this will definitely
Yeah.
be the recommendation, is that there is more latitude to, move items within the budget as long as you are, within the bottom line. That's the direction. So, then the board will decide.
Well, they're doing a great job out there, and I can't believe we had actually scheduled that as a multi-year remodel. I don't think any of us were really realizing that they could actually get it done in a few months and get it done well and at such a good cost. I mean, it's really a tremendous job in that
Impressive.
shop.
Yeah, it's impressive.
It's habitable. I mean, it was pretty awful. And all this is great, and whatever we need to do to keep that efficiency going, I'm all for it.
Director Johnson?
I have a couple questions. I don't recall this being brought to the Finance Committee, and I'm thinking that if it concerns budgetary changes or whatever, that I think protocol should be adhered to. And I think it would be proper that we get to see this before it's presented to the whole board. And I think one of the fiduciary responsibilities of the Finance Committee is to hold you accountable and to have at least some advance notice prior to expenditures. And I think that's number one of the committee, and if it's not the purpose of the committee, then I suggest we dissolve it. The second part, and I don't have any objection, I think this is good stuff. We did program this thing out for a 5-year expenditures on the allocation of monies. Once again, we're moving monies out of one pot to another without any accountability and coming back and saying, oh, by the way, this is what we did with the money. I have issues with the fact that we've already borrowed this money and it's already gone, and the inclusion of that was for personnel and equipment, and I don't recall any shop remodel in there. But that being said, the place has been in dire need of assistance, so this is not an issue. I'm talking procedural protocol, and I would encourage the staff to stay straight with that. Also, we decided to do it ourselves, and I think the mantra here has been that we are no longer going to use our own employees to fix the facility, which we did here on the main house, and now on the back house, we're using our own people. So there's a little contradiction in terms of whatever we're doing with employee time. And we were told that that was not good protocol then. And I'm assuming that the estimates that came through on this were from a certified contractor, and we are now operating under whose license and who's permitting this.
We're operating under Mark Band's electrical licensing.
And he's doing the construction then too, and that's going to be permitted with the county?
We're following county code.
Okay. So that will all be certified, so we're not going to come back another 20 years here for the next board to come back in and say they found several safety hazards, overloaded electrical panels, et cetera, because it wasn't certified or approved?
Yeah, for example, the electrical panel box was done by CVS Electric, contracted out.
Well, I'm trying to hold us accountable here because,
CNS.
CNS.
so those are my comments.
Thank you. Director Hunt?
Well, I think the idea of developing a budget policy is a really good idea, and my general feeling is that, within the annual budget that's approved, we need to give the general manager more flexibility to move funds around. We need to have sideboards on that, and, instances where it's not appropriate, like general manager Sauer used the example of if, the $3 million going to non-capital improvement expenses, right? But I'm sure you're considering all that in your already. I know how you work, and I know you're already thinking about all those things. So I think that's what we need, and that could go to the finance committee to look at before coming to the full board, a budget policy, and I think that would address your concerns, Director Johnson. And for tonight, I would be in favor of approving an adjustment that reflects this change in what happened with the shop, where we were able to move forward with its construction all in 1 year. And it makes sense because, like Director Unger said, we didn't anticipate that they would be able to move so quickly to get it done, and getting it done quickly, given everything that's coming down the pike with new employees and new workload with laying the pipe, is a very beneficial thing. And lastly, I agree with Director Johnson that overall we have to work this out procedurally, but overall the upgrade of the shop was sorely needed, and it's going to increase efficiency. It's already increased safety. It's definitely increased morale and energy efficiency. For those of you that haven't seen it, the staff offered us individually opportunities to go out and see the work in progress. And I'm not a contractor, but I have some construction experience, and I think they're doing a masterful job. And I remember when you were first talking about it, you said that even though we're not subject to it, that we would follow county code. And as Mark was taking me around, I was looking at, every single aspect of the various stages of construction, and it all looks really, really good, really tight. And I think it's very, very important for energy efficiency and also the health and safety of the employees that you separate that office space from the open shop space. And I think it's one of the best things that's happened here in a long time in terms of really increasing our operational efficiency. So that's all I have to say. But I would just say that I would suggest that we do approve that adjustment to reflect the change in the cost of the shop and moving the money around to cover it.
Thank you. Director Floner?
I think quite a while ago I kind of mentioned this kind of a situation where we're doing so many things, and I know Mark has a lot of experience with constructing stuff. That's how he got the job of constructing stuff. But what I'm kind of wondering too is this. I'm thinking of the Government Accounting Standards Board, GASP, or
Gatsby.
that kind of thing, because we've just started seeing the audit. Is there anything in here that's kind of, do they like to talk in there about their, in the audit about their controls and how they test the controls, about how the money flows in the organization? These controls, which are procedures, I guess, are functioning here. Is there anything in this where we're we're kind of moving things around in the budget that would conflict with any of these standards that are practiced in the United States of America
No.
and all that stuff.
A budget is a tool, and some people get confused and you know, or just don't understand that the budget is not set in stone. It's a working tool, and so it's reasonable and it's expected that you will make changes during the budget year. That's totally expected. That's happened in every, you know, business that I've ever been involved with. That is customary. You know, you're a year or more in advance predicting what's going to happen. You do your best job,
Sure.
but things don't always work out that way. If revenues are short, expenses need to be adjusted. You know, there are normal changes that get made, and none of this would cause any sort of concern or over controls. What the one comment that I might make is that our auditors ask about a budget policy. So moving, you know, towards the budget policy is what needs to happen. And allowing this sort of flexibility is certainly within a reasonable budget policy. Hopefully that answers.
In the, yeah, it's very helpful. You're
Okay.
always helpful. But I'm just picturing this in its complexity as a very dynamic situation. It's this construction stuff we're doing, where we're using things, buying things, tracking inventories, doing all these kinds of things. I expressed concern, must have been at least 6 months ago, about the general manager's ability to move rapidly and efficiently on these things.
Right.
And I thought at the time, as I recall, that he needed more authority to spend than he currently has with this $10,000 for this and $20,000 for that, you know, notification levels and stuff. But I do kind of agree with what Director Hund says, and also, too, with Director Johnson about having something that we can show to people that demonstrates that we're being responsible with this money, that where it's supposed to go to. Because you're not talking about increasing anything overall. You're talking about simply moving basic money from here to there and potentially back again. You never know.
Well, and I think to address perhaps Director Johnson's concern as well, that a budget policy will involve, you know, notification to the board. There's a process that will take place. I mean, it isn't, you know, us behind the scenes here, you know, making changes without informing you. I mean, you get financial reports. When budgets are different, someone's going to want to know why. So there will be a process of informing the board of how the budget, you know, is being moved around, but it won't involve the process of having to come and ask the question, you know, based on whatever guidance, whatever this policy ultimately is decided, you know, by the board. So whatever direction you provide, you know, it will have to involve a notification process to you. I mean, this isn't something that we'll just, you know, secretly, covertly do.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I'm on several reserve management committees for large multi-species reserves in my current job, and you know, the example I think of is, you know, we come up with an annual work plan every year, and we allocate X amount of dollars to a particular category and categories, and then what happens during the course of the year is some things require less funding than we projected, some things require more.
Yeah, of course.
And if within those sideboards, we typically allow the manager to move the money around to make those adjustments during the course of the year without coming back to us every time. But obviously you need sideboards on that.
Right.
And not trying to make your budget policy right now, but I'd say, for example, if there's a big new expenditure that was not contemplated and approved in the budget, then you'd have to come back to the board. But if it's within your the parameters of your existing budget, and you're regularly reporting out to us what you're doing, how you're making adjustments, I think that's the kind of thing that you're proposing that we consider.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So when you talk about the budget policy, is that something that you are working on that now?
Yes, but it's not on the top of my priority list, so with all due respect,
Can't
yes.
understand why not.
So, yes, we're already working on the draft for that. So, really based upon our auditor's advice, I mean, we take seriously the information that we get from our auditors, and this is something they've really been talking to us about for several years. So it's something that needs to be put in place, and it will involve, of course, our first attempts at what we think is the best policy, and then a lot of massaging, from the finance committee and then the board, so.
Well, I know from just having a home and the business that you have to have flexibility because things don't go the way you projected a year and a half ago. So,
Right.
Yeah. All right, public comment before we go on with the vote? Anyone? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I just wanted to, so, the last tour I got of the shop remodel, I was asking Mark, I said, well, who knows how to do all this stuff, and who's permitting it, and where are the, who's like, I was asking all those questions. I thought, and he goes, well, yeah, I got for the blueprints, I got this. So a lot of this stuff is done under what Mark Band brought here with his own skill set, and I was amazed at that. And here's everybody there, and I said, well, what do they do when they get a call? I said, well, they put down their hammers, and it's like, and everyone seemed like whistling while they worked out there, so.
It's pretty impressive. It is very, very impressive what they've done and the work they've done. So.
Not something we usually do, but it's going along great.
Yep. All right, so do I have a motion?
What are we moving?
Well, he's requesting that we authorize the general manager to adjust the budget to clearly identify costs and offsets for the CIRP.
I so move.
All right, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, we'll take a roll call. We'll start with Director Reinberg.
Aye.
Director Johnson?
No, procedurally.
Thank you. Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Sloan?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so it's 4-1. Thank you. Move to item number 10, potential development proposals about which the district has been contacted. Is that
Okay,
General
that's me.
Manager?
Yeah. All right, so this is just discussion and to inform you. Okay? The capital improvement plan is important, mainline replacement's important, well 14 is important, hiring, everything is important. But we also have to, and the strategic plan is important. And we sold 3 meters since August. It's all single-family residential. But there's something happening here. And what it is ain't exactly clear.
I knew that was coming.
And Beverly talked me out of putting down, do you ever feel like you're in a frog in a pot of water over a camp stove? And then we did a little Google research, and actually, that's not a true story. So anyway, I want to just talk about 4 proposals that we've been made aware of, either by citizens or the developers have actually come here. I'm fully aware that the Water District is not a land use agency. It's about the county and land use planning and public involvement, etc. But to give you a little overview, I want to just mention 4 things that have been brought to our attention, and one is on the bottom is down by Gary's Tires. The other one is just next to the Quail Springs Apartments and our recharge pond. The blue arrow is pointing out a small little red square of 10 acres on Sunfair, and another 160 acres to the north on Sunfair, just east and south of Joshua Lakes Campground. So the first one, if I can get this to work, there we go. There are 5 different parcels within that red outlined area. The proposal to the county is that these parcels, which are currently zoned single-family residential, be converted to multi-residential. And the proposal is a colorful vision. The main goal is to create the opportunity for a colorful and artistic 3-story residential development with zoning that brings an economy of scale and efficiency that provides the opportunity to afford quality property management and certain art and open space amenities to enrich the downtown Joshua Tree community. Another goal is to create enough efficiency so as to be able to afford a 1-acre greenbelt with a dedicated public trailhead, art plaza, and walking hiking trail to provide access to the nearby Coyote Hole Canyon, natural rock features and petroglyphs. Now, the trail that's proposed happens to go through 4 different private parcels. There's already a trail there, but that's the proposal, and the colorful vision is a landscape or artist rendition of what they're proposing for this 3-story development with some 36 approximately apartments, condos, whatever. So it's going to require a wastewater plant, which we will have to operate, and they will have to pay for. Okay? Because it's so large, it's probably going to require not the county environmental health review, but the review of the Colorado River Water Quality Control Board. And LAFCO's going to be advised because it's another water treatment plant, wastewater package plant that we're going to be responsible for operating. They're going to be responsible for paying us to operate it, and they're going to be responsible for all repairs. So that's one. It comes from people from the city of Laguna Niguel. And if you go on the city's website, they have several very pretty pictures of green space that allows access around 2-story efficient management of living quarters.
Colorful.
And colorful. But it's the type of development that is coming. Okay? So the second one is just north. It's off of Sunburst. Verbena is at the top of the red line. That's the Quail Springs Apartments. Just to the northeast or upper right corner is our recharge facility. The Morongo Basin Transit Authority buses. This is a 26-acre parcel. We've been in talks with the people and informed them that before we went any further, they needed to provide us with a $5,000 deposit. The idea here is to create a glamping campground with 48 Airstream trailers. Now, if I'm going to rent an Airstream trailer, it better have a bathroom, functional bathroom in it. So how many septic tanks are we going to have to require? And what number of equivalent dwelling units is going to factor in? Could this potentially, probably not, but potentially, be another wastewater plant? And the folks to the west get to have a campground. Now, this is all up to the county, but we have to think about, okay, is that going to be a 2-inch meter? Is the pipeline along Verbena large enough to supply it? Can we supply it off of Sunburst? And how are our people going to handle that? Who knows? The main line, we just have all these questions. So the third one is out on Sunfair. Sunfair. That little arrow there with blue in it is, and see that little horizontal line, that's the Joshua Tree Airport. And That's the Joshua Tree Airport buildings in the top left. This 2.15 acre parcel is being proposed to have 10, it's also a glamping campground, 10 Connex boxes. Capacity, sewer, whatever. It's not necessarily just 1, 3 single-family residences. It's the potential shift that I just want the board to be thinking about. And the fourth one is out there, just east of the Joshua Lakes Campground, Joshua Tree Lakes Campground.
Joshua Tree Lake RV Park.
Yeah, that. My CAC is on it. And it's 160 acres. Now, it's the right-hand square, not the left-hand square. That's already taken care of. They're on their own well. They have their own lake. 2,000 motorcycle riders 3 weekends ago. I'm assuming some of the 5,000 marathoners that supposedly came in for the marathon race last weekend at night. So that's 160 acres. The southwest corner is about 40 acres. And this is an artist's rendition of a glamping campground with 40 yurts. Yurts? Y-U-R-T-S. Now, let me facetiously say that I like this particular proposal because right in the middle is that Volkswagen bus, which I think is, somebody took a picture of my 1961 Volkswagen Safari window wraparound bus. And it probably is well outfitted for camping. But on this 40-acre parcel, it's some 2,000 feet to extend the main line, which they would pay for. However, what they're proposing is that they would drill 2 wells, and they will attempt to form their own transient water company. So LAFCO and we are going to be involved in that. And then in discussions with them, we mentioned chromium-6. So if they're going to supply water to the public out of their wells, they right now are exempt because they're not a municipal water agency. Okay?
How many units are they putting in?
This is,
40?
it's all in discussion, but it's being described as 40 units.
25
40
or more,
40
25
units.
or more, they're going to become a public entity.
Some of the things we need to be aware of that we'll be discussing, the MAC might be discussing it, I would assume. So, anyway, those are just some of the other proposals that make our weeks go by quickly. Any comments?
So have they asked for any will serve letters?
No. No one has asked for any will-serve letters. The 48 Airstream proposal has sent us 3 emails today, and the Dudek Engineering 2 emails yesterday and another one today asking for additional information, even though we've informed them that we're not going any further in the planning until we get a deposit. So no will serves, no meter quotes. It's just in design stage, and our engineering firm will be working with their various architectural and design firms. So, and 0 or all of them will be implemented. It's not the sky is falling or anything, but these are the types of things that we're seeing in addition to the VRBOs, which I'll briefly mention later.
The green zone, is that going to be Kathleen and the water-wise folks going out there to help them put that green zone together?
Yeah.
So lucky
Very funny.
Well, since they've legalized marijuana, now people are getting ideas, and, water is land use, and I really, something like this, all these projects, when you talked about like the sewer, septic, the wastewater, especially the one off of Sunburst, that's a tiny 2-lane little road. People were already upset about a Dollar General coming there with that tiny little 2-lane road. And these people setting up some big, was it 40 Airstreams or something there? And trying to get in and out on Sunfair. And that's so close to our recharge ponds. We've already talked about the effects of the Quail Springs apartments. I mean, water is land use. There's no getting around it, and that part of the California Water Code is antiquated, and especially in the drought, it needs to be definitely re-looked at. But these are, God, people coming from Laguna Niguel or where else they're coming with their yurts and stuff, and the trail to Coyote Hole, and let people tramp around there and look at the petroglyphs and
Does BIA know this?
Native American Lands
Trust,
Conservancy
Land Conservancy.
I don't know. I think they're aware, but I can't say that for a fact. I can tell you that the 4 property owners through which the trail is proposed are well aware of it. Might be where I heard about it.
the people are talking about the yurts over there by the lake. God. Thank you, Kurt.
I feel in a lot of ways it's like goodbye Joshua Tree. And Inspector Hunt.
You mentioned on the first one that it would require a change because it'd be upzoning. What about the others? Do you know if that would require a change to the existing land use designations?
Yeah, I should know that because I asked Randy that this afternoon, and let's see if I can recall. The one along the flood control is residential. The 48 Airstream on Sunburst is zoned commercial, and the other 2 are currently residential or RL5 or whatever.
That sounds like they would all need a land use designation change. This is my first experience since I've been on the board with proposed developments like this, and what I'm wondering is, do we give the county folks, county planning folks, information about the effects that these proposed developments could have on our water supply and water operations? Because that doesn't make us a land use authority, but we're giving them information in order to assist them in making decisions whether or not to do things like this.
Yes, we will be speaking with the county. Environmental health does the well permits, land use planning, will be consulting with us for wastewater treatment, conferring with us.
Okay.
And we've got a pretty good working relationship with those offices. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Director Flow.
Is that water, I heard, I don't know, it might have been years ago, that the waterway out there up against the mountains and the dry lake and all that was not good water out there. Is that true? Do we know? Is that part of our actual, what is it, Copper Mountain
Copper Mountain,
aquifer?
Copper Mountain and Joshua Tree are both fine water quality aquifers.
But I mean, way out.
It's
there.
higher in chromium 6.
But they're not required to adhere to the standard, the California standard, because of density?
Because they're currently, well, there are no chromium 6 regulations currently.
Yeah,
That was retracted.
yeah.
But when it was in place, it applied to urban water suppliers, or not individual campgrounds, not Joshua Tree Lakes RV, whatever it's called.
So when we buy water, it's not going out there, it's going to our local aquifer here because of...
Right, it would be on this side of the Pinto
Yeah,
area.
it raises the question about how we're spending $280,000 for a water allocation. We put it in the ground and then somebody pumps it out for free, kind of a thing. That has to be looked into, I would think, a little bit. Oh, what fun.
Yeah. And I really want to congratulate Kurt on the relationship that he's developed with county planning. Our relationship with them has not always been smooth and easy, and he really does have a good relationship with Terry Rahal, who is the director of planning, so good work.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, public comment. There must be people. Yes, Gail.
Gail Austin, Joshua Tree. We dodged a bullet with the solar. They threatened to drop in a huge well and take water, and we barely dodged it. And it's going to happen sooner or later. The RV park, they have more and more. They keep adding things. There's more people. They're taking more water. They take showers. The water's free. And not to put any onus on them, but you have a project that might come in. It's going to happen. And if we don't have a solid policy on wells, I think that we should be monitoring them. I don't think that they should be able to take more and us pay to recharge the water. There's so many things that are involved, and this is something, I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate about, is that you do have your right to your land, but we all share this water, and it is limited here, and no one should take more than their share. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Any other public comment? Seeing none? Oh, yes. Dr. Tracy.
I would like to bring to the attention of the board and the staff an olive ranch next door to where I live. It's on Shadow Mountain, and the cross street would be Hacienda. And I ride my bike past it often, and I've counted the trees. I believe it's 120 trees or something in that vicinity. And the wells that these little trees are sitting in are full every time I go by. So there's a water consumption issue, and I agree with what Gail is saying about that's private land. You can water your trees. It's a dilemma that I don't see an easy solution for.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else? Public comments? Seeing none, this was for information only.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think I want to say thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it to our
We won't shoot the messenger.
No. All right, we'll move on to District Council. Mr. Benito.
Madam Chairman, I don't have a report on tonight's dialogue or issues, but I do want to say, go back a little bit on that creative approaches you use for your customer deposit process. When she came to me with that, it really opened my eyes. That is very creative and absolutely legally compliant. It's pretty impressive. I want to just say that. I've never seen that.
Thank you.
And I had no report.
We have a very creative assistant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, General Manager's report, Mr. Sauer.
Just some general updates. The emergency response plan. In December of 2017, the board directed the general manager to complete both the local hazard mitigation plan and the emergency response plan. The local hazard mitigation plan has been completed in draft form using Gary Sturdivant as a consultant. It's been submitted to Cal OES for review, and then we'll go to FEMA. We are starting on a rewrite of the emergency response plan using Gary Sturdivant's expertise, and the overall cost for that emergency response plan will be $8,500. To remind you, the ERP is the emergency response plan, is a key document to guide the district through difficult and different emergency situations. It's a requirement of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It's a requirement of the State of California Office of Emergency Services. So we're working on that. And just a little bit more background on Gary Sturtevant. He's pretty well versed in water and local hazard mitigation plans and emergency management. Last week, he was elected co-chair of the Region 6 Cal Warren organization, co-chair. And you all recall the Joshua Tree flood event, right? We have submitted a claim through the Office of Emergency Services for $26,000 estimated costs for equipment, supplies, and overtime. If we get this reimbursement, it will be more money than we have paid Sturtevant for his work on both the local hazard mitigation plan and the emergency response plan. We're also working with Gary and 29 Palm to do a joint emergency response tabletop exercise in December. And I think one of the things I forgot to mention, maybe I did mention it during our report on the flood event, because the highway was closed and Yucca Valley, High Desert, and Bighorn would have had difficulty getting here to assist us, I made one phone call to Ray, and within 3 hours they had 8 people and all the main line loaded that we thought we might need, because we were still doing the research into what had actually happened. We ended up having 10 mainline breaks that had to be repaired. 3 of them were major. So it served to illustrate that 29 and Joshua Basin, High Desert, and Bighorn need to be working together, because when the big one comes, the road from Coachella Valley up here, called 62, may or may not be there, and we're going to be dependent on ourselves and assistance from Arizona. So, okay, so that's emergency response, the flood event. Okay, so remember the swamp cooler study? Okay, so Kathleen has been working diligently with Nicholas Schneider of Mojave Water Agency, who's been working tirelessly with the Department of Water Resources, and we are going to be part of a University of California, Davis study funded by DWR, maybe in part by MWA, on swamp cooler water usage. And in discussions with DWR, they asked Nick Schneider if Joshua Basin Water District would like to participate in a landscape area measurement program. And this program is part of DWR's efforts to implement Senate Bill 606 and Assembly Bill 1668, the water budgets on a statewide basis. So there are 16 to 20 agencies that DWR is going to work with to do the landscape area measurement program. And basically, as I understand it, and we can get them down here for more detailed information, the concept is you fly an area and the vegetation density and types can be determined from various algorithms, which they are trying to increase the efficiency of the algorithms. And from that, they're going to extrapolate, you have your internal water use of 50 gallons per day, your external water use for irrigated lands, right? And the swamp cooler information, because that's a socioeconomic issue. It's a health issue. So I wanted to mention that to the board, that we've been offered to be part of that study. I think it would be a good idea to be at the forefront and working with the state, rather than waiting for the state to finish their studies. I've also recommended that 29 Palms be involved, and they may or may not include them in the landscape area measurement. Well, they probably won't include them in the landscape area measurement program, but they are going to include them in the swamp cooler study, and Ray is on board with that. Any questions on the landscape area measurement program? Good, because I probably wouldn't be able to answer them in detail. We're just finding out about this. And I think I sent all of you copies of the little primer on what DWR is trying to do. Okay, and then the capital improvement replacement program vacancies for 2 laborers, pipe layer 1, pipe layer 2, and lead equipment operator. Went on the streets today,
Yes.
and Sarah has more information.
They're out for external recruitment now, so we have them open until filled. We also have an online application, which we haven't had before. We got that up and running, so they can fill out the application online, and the hiring manager can see who's applied, and we can get through the recruitment process, so that's pretty exciting. Hoping that we can get enough people to fill out those applications and screen them and find qualified candidates that can go through the interview process and then the screening process, and hopefully have folks on board by January.
Who is the hiring manager?
Mark Band. Jim Corbin will also be involved too, because he'll be overseeing that program.
Excellent.
And our website, maybe say that for people who might
Oh.
listen.
Go to www.jbwd.com and click at the bottom of the page, Employment Opportunities.
Are we, excuse me, Sarah, are we also out there on Indeed and other sites?
Yes, so all of the positions are flowing on 5 different job boards currently.
Excellent. And I have a question for Kurt.
Okay.
Can you remind me on our hazard mitigation plan? I know you said it's at OES and it'll go to FEMA next, but approximately when it will be back to us to review and vote on?
When they're done. So,
I think he
they
gave
have-
us a bit of a
they
estimated
have,
timeline, didn't he?
I don't recall if it's 3, I think it's 3 months to turn it around. But if their staff is responding to, the staff that reviews your LHMP also responds to incidents. So if there's a flood event, a fire event, an earthquake, and they don't get dispatched just in the county or just in the state, they can be dispatched nationally.
FEMA, yeah.
Well, and even members of Cal OES. They can end up in Texas for wherever the hurricanes are.
Mutual aid type stuff. Yeah.
So I'm hopeful
Yeah.
before Christmas. But Gary also told me that even though they're in and not approved yet, that we can go ahead and apply for the FEMA emergency funding.
That's where I was headed
If it
with that
happens
question.
to apply to stuff that's in our local hazard mitigation plan. So for example,
Excellent.
flooding that wiped out our pipeline, if there's a section of the pipeline that we wanted to bury deeper and embed in concrete, that could potentially be funded through the FEMA monies. 75%, right? You still have to have the other 25% out of
Right.
your budget.
Right.
Okay? So we're going to have to balance, do we want to do that, or do we want to do this?
Well, that's great news that because we've submitted, even though it's not approved, if it's in our plan, we can apply for funds, those disaster funds, because I know that was your goal, so that we could do this pre-mitigation stuff. And when there's pots of money, apply for funding to
Yeah, as long
to
as the
get it.
board remembers it's 75% funding, not 100%.
Right,
We're going to have
Right.
to pull money from someplace else.
right. We'll have to be looking at priorities within that plan and budgeting
Yes.
for that match, or trying to find it through a grant or something else. Great.
And then Susan has
Yeah, I wanted to report on the status of our loan funds. We have thus far spent $641,356 of our $3 million loan. The loan paid approximately $529,000 directly to RDO equipment, which was the purchase for a motor grader, a broom, and a backhoe loader. And then the district has been reimbursed for $112,000 some dollars that we paid directly for the asphalt zipper. So money's flowing just the way it's supposed to. The turnaround is really fast, so everything's working smoothly.
Good. Excellent news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we will go to director comments and reports on meetings attended. We'll start with the public outreach consultant, Kathleen Ravitch.
Good evening. My first item is to share what we've kind of been talking about, the CalWarn system, which we are members now of CalWarn, and that's the California Water Wastewater Response Network. And this group, Beverly and I attended 2 meetings, and the first one was between just 29 Palms, us, and the trainer for the software that is going to jumpstart us in emergency communications. As our community's growing with both tourism and everything else, our robocall system is inadequate. It's not cutting it, and we need to be able to get our message out quickly. Because we have less staff than a lot of big agencies, we have fewer people to do a big amount of communication. So the software system that we are bringing on board, it's going to enable us to do some incredible communications. For example, if we have taken our district and we've sectioned it all off, and in advance, which is the stuff we're working on, we load into this system everyone's phone numbers associated with that residence at that house, on that street, in that area, and 8 pipe breaks, and it wipes out a trail. We can take a geometric, square around it, or whatever the angle of who's impacted on this map, and it right away targets all the phone numbers right in that area. So we're not having to alert the whole district. We are targeting areas that are impacted. And we can do several areas, just like in this last situation that we have with the pipe breaks. We didn't have it just in one area. We had here, we had over there. But this targeting of messaging is going to allow us that freedom to efficiently and effectively communicate instead of just loading in every customer we have in a database and run a message out generically to the entire water district that may take 4 hours to get to everyone as it robocalls. So this is fabulous. It's got great potential. It also will allow us to preload in and determine messages where I may just need to change a few words instead of script a whole message and type it into an email. But we'll be able to use message targeting that not only goes to landlines and cell phones once we get everyone on board, but we can text message, which was a huge request in this last couple disasters we had, and we can send out emails. And that's all with the push of one, target it out, send it out. It's not multiple applications. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of what this communication tool will allow us to do. The people wanted to give us the chance to upgrade and be a water district that was like they're used to getting in the city and everywhere else. Well, this tool is going to be one of those things that's going to allow us to come into the new century and start communicating more effectively. So Beverly and I have been learning it. Redundancy, both of us are going through the training. We went down below to the low desert for a CalWarn more regional type meeting where we learned about how to access assistance and the support of the whole organization. And everything Kurt said is correct. We may be totally cut off up here. But we're working at, you have to have a lot of tools in your bag during a disaster. So we're trying to make that happen. And so anyway, just wanted to update you on that is coming down the pipe. But what we're going to be asking from all our customers is to give us their updated information. They want to be text. If we don't have their cell phone number, we can't text them. You know, it's that simple. So that's going out in the next newsletter, and we'll be requesting it. And I ask everyone here and everyone watching that if you hold an account with the water district and you want to be notified of when the water is not safe to drink or why your water stopped flowing, certainly it's simple. Just contact the water district on the, when you pay your bill, the back of the pay stub says here's where you can write down your updated information. It's that easy. So that's the update on Cal Warren right now. We will be going through more training. And then United Way Low Income Assistance Program, to date, the October 31st end of the run of reports, they have assisted 40 of our customers. And it hasn't even been but maybe a few months. General Manager Sauer. We have a bet going here.
You're still going to owe me the cookies.
All right, the farmer's market. I am in my last month for the season. We're covering winterizing, and I'm just amazed. I do this every year in November. How many people just don't understand that the older your pipes get, the more vulnerable they become. And so they do stop, that we do talk, they do learn. It is a good outreach. But I'm also finding we're getting an awful lot of people wanting to move to Joshua Tree. Many. And I don't know who's doing what behind our back, but tell them to stop. Now, lastly, the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting is next week, Tuesday, November 13th at 6 p.m. If you or anyone know of anyone that's gotten very eager to learn more about our water, bring them along to the meeting. It's open to the public, and hope to see them there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Great job in the farmer's market. So finally, you're going to close that down for the next 3 months.
3 months.
Yes. Okay, both the Mojave Water Agency Board of Directors and the Morongo Basin Municipal, easy for me to say, Municipal Advisory Committee were canceled. That's the ones that just were? Or the ones that are coming up?
No, the ones that just were the last ones.
Okay. Future director meetings and training opportunities. Finance is tomorrow. Vice President Johnson and Director Flowen. The Mojave, are you on the committee? You're not.
No, I'm going to go to the. I'm going to go to Mojave for Gary.
Tomorrow at 9:30.
Yep.
And Water Resources and Operations follows the finance meeting tomorrow about 10:30. The finance people are really long and chatty, so it takes a long time.
And Nikki and I are very succinct.
Yes.
Sorry.
Operations is very succinct. We'll start and go through if you have anything else you wish to say. Rebecca.
Thank you, everybody who voted for me yesterday. I really appreciate it. I love serving on the Joshua Basin Water District. I really wish I'd started in public service when I was much, much younger, but I'm really happy for this opportunity. I want to congratulate Mike Reynolds, who is here tonight. He'll be serving on the board again. And I'd like to thank the other candidates who ran, Al Marquez, Paul Coate, and Tom Flowen. Been an excellent director, and I've really loved serving with you. Thank you so much for taking on the appointment when it was made to you, and thank you for your incredibly great service on the Joshua Basin Water District.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to ditto that. Congratulations, Mike and Rebecca and the other candidates. I really appreciate the enthusiasm and the community involvement. Stay tuned and keep plugging away. And for those that are interested, tomorrow's a Finance Committee meeting. It's riveting. It's exciting. Be here.
I can hardly wait. Okay, Director Hunt.
I've just echoed the other board members' comments. Congratulations to you, Mike, and thank you, everybody that ran, and for everybody here tonight that continues to engage and be involved in this very important endeavor.
Yeah. Director Sloan.
Well, we do like winning in America. Somebody else won. It wasn't surprising because there is significant amount of fame and fortune on Mike Reynolds' part. He's been a member of the Joshua Tree community for I don't know how many decades. I think you made a joke when you were interviewed for this spot before about how you were conceived in Joshua Tree, which that beats me. But anyway, this has been quite an exceptional experience. It's not easy sitting up here and doing this. It's actually just the tip of the iceberg. This is really hard work. Takes a lot of focus, a lot of research time at home at the kitchen table, which is where America does its business, at the kitchen table. And it's a significant commitment, and other things have to be set aside to do this. And the dedication is impressive, and I think everybody that has done this and is currently doing it and will be doing it in the future, I should really be admired for the effort, because this is hard, especially now when we're doing things with the rates, raising the rates and all that. It puts the hurt on a lot of people. Everybody feels it, but it puts the hurt on some people. But certain things must be done, and it takes courageous people to do it. And they're up here right now, and more to come. I think you heard tonight there's a menu of new things coming up for you that the board is going to have to continue to fend off and to be knowledgeable on and lobby our friends about. At some point I'll look forward to coming back and pestering you all from the podium over there where I started out in the first place about 5 years ago.
We really hope so.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say Happy Veterans Day to all our veterans. Remember those first responders, men and women in uniform, and those that are serving here and abroad. Thank you for your service.
And the Veterans Day celebrations will be in Yucca Valley this year on Sunday, 10 a.m. start at the community center.
And we're closed on Monday.
Did I give you a chance?
Yes.
All right. I just want to say thank you to this board. I'm going to miss Tom unbelievably. He has been at every pipe break and he's been amazing. He's been an amazing person before he was on the board. He's been an amazing director, so we will miss you. But Mike, it's been nice to have you back.
Thank you.
And to the other people who ran, condolences. Losing is not much fun. Is there anything else before I have a motion for adjournment?
Just have one question.
Yes, sir.
Is anybody attending the Aqua Conference coming up at the end of the month?
Yes, I am.
I'll see you there.
Yes. Okay.
I move we adjourn.
Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Second.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much for being here.